Hi, everybody. It's Shelley with 50 Up Health and Beauty, and welcome to another segment of my expert series. Now, today we're going to dive deep into body work, specifically Rolfing. Now, I came upon Rolfing after I had an injury, and it truly transformed my life by alleviating my sciatic pain as well as improving my balance. Now, today my expert is Jay Bartley. Now, Jay is a certified advanced Rolfer. He is a Rolf movement practitioner and certified realization process teacher. And he's the owner of Bartley Rolfing and Structural Integration in Silver Lake, California. Now, Jay is trained at a number of notable institutions, including the Ida Rolf Institute, the New School of Structural Integration, and the realization process. His extensive background and knowledge in meditation, embodiment, and healing make him an authority in the field. So let's give a nice welcome to Jay Bartley. Jay, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Of course, it's great to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of people that are watching this may not know what Rolfing is or Rolf movement. Could you talk a little bit about that and kind of explain to our listeners or viewers what it is?
Yeah. Rolfing is a type of bodywork that a woman named Ida Rolf created. And she developed the approach to the body in regards to a holistic approach or a whole system approach. So it's not necessarily looking at a body as parts. And that's a tendency in our culture to say, oh, this is what hurts, let's work on this. She would actually look at the body as a relationship and want to create a balanced body within gravity. She would always say gravity is the therapist and the Rolfer is the educator. And it's really about bringing awareness to a person's daily life and what do they feel in their body, and to bring ease and an effortlessness into their life. There's so much effort in our world and so much kind of work to be done that this work is about just allowing more of an ease and allowing a calmness to overtake the system, the body, the person. Mm-hmm. And it's about working with the whole body. And so it's not just I'm focusing on the muscles or the fascia. And the fascia is what enwraps the whole system. So it unwraps the skeleton system, the ligaments, the tendons, the organs. And so fascia is basically, if you think of it like a web, if you pull one area of the web, it's not just going to affect that one area, it's going to affect the whole matrix, the whole body.
Yeah.
And so if you're pulling this could affect the shoulder or the foot. And so that's why we're looking at a body as a whole. So when a client comes in, I have them stand. I'll have them stand in a few different positions. I will also have them walk around. I will take notes what I notice, and I'll also ask the client, what are they noticing when they're standing, when they're walking? Again, bringing more awareness. And then I'll do some table work with them, basically the hands-on approach. It also might be done on a bench, or even standing up sometimes. They don't necessarily have to be lying down all the time. And then with the Rolf movement aspect of it, the Rolf movement is supposed to support the hands-on work. And Rolf movement is about bringing new habitual movements, patterns to a person's life, changing the quality, changing the coordination, allowing a client to orient differently in space. In space meaning the environment they are in. So for instance, let's say I had a client, for instance, standing one time and I asked them to hear the wind chimes that were going on outside. She had no idea that there were wind chimes because that was not how she was orientating herself to space. She didn't have any sense of the sounds. And so that in itself can change a habit of just noticing some sounds and allowing sounds to be support. And Rolf movement can be an add-on to the hands-on Rolfing work. And Rolf movement also, we use hands to be able to guide the client. But Rolf movement can also be done in a 10 series as well in regards to the movement aspect of it. Mm-hmm. And going back to Rolfing, there's Ida Rolf approach the body within these 10 sessions. And it's not mandatory to do the 10 series. I think it's the most beneficial because each session builds upon the next. But the 10 series is about integrating the entire body. And Ida Rolf approach the body within these 10 sessions to allow more of an integrated body.
And I know for myself, when I took the 10 series, It's probably the first time that when you brought attention to how do I get out of bed in the morning, that I have ever even thought about that.
Yeah, and you're not alone.
Right. It's true.
Yeah, and so it's about, okay, let's slow things down when you get up, when you hear the alarm. How do you get up?
Right.
And it's not necessarily a bad thing of how you get up, but I'm just allowing you to, I'm inviting you to
pay attention,
and to give you another way to get up.
Right.
You know, and so that's the thing is that the more you do something over and over again, that's going to eventually catch up to you.
Right.
And that's going to cause injuries, compensations, strains, sprains in the body. And so what Rolfing and Rolf movement does, it creates that sense of awareness and paying attention, slowing things down.
Right. Now, for our audience, it is called 50 Up.
Yes.
So is there any special considerations that you take or you think about when a person comes in is over 50?
I mean, it really depends on the person's lifestyle. I mean, I do an intake form when someone comes in. And so we discuss their habits. We discuss their lifestyle. So I take all that into consideration. So it's basically done on an individual basis. One thing that comes to mind is that, if someone's on blood thinners, then that kind of reminds me, okay, so the quality of touch may need to be a little lighter just because of the bruising aspect. Mm-hmm. So you just want to pay attention to what the client's lifestyle is. If there's certain medications that someone's taking, then, you have a conversation and you communicate. And that's kind of the approach I would take with that specific client.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they said, whenever I talk with Rolfing, they go, oh, that really hurts. I heard it really hurts. Now you do it every day. Can you speak to that?
Well, I've heard the same thing.
Okay, yeah.
And I would say that Rolfing has gotten a bad rap in that regard. I don't necessarily think it needs to hurt to be effective. And so I work with the individual. I work with the person. I don't just work on a body. I'm working with the actual whole person. And so that's where I talk about in regards to relationships. And so I'm working with someone's nervous system. And if you're going to work on someone really deep, that could actually cause the nervous system to contract and cause a little bit more tension in the body. And that's the opposite of what we want to do in Rolfing and Rolf movement. And so, sometimes I'll work with somebody on a really superficial level as opposed to a deep, deep level. It really depends again on the person and what they're coming to me for. And, again, bringing an awareness to somebody can be just a really light, guided touch as opposed to something really deep and intrusive.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things that I see, I'm living in the desert now, and there's a large population of people that are older. And one of the things that I noticed is many of them slouch. And a lot of them, too, have like a lump on the back of like the cervical portion of their spine. Yeah. And I would imagine this comes into play even more so if something happens to them and they have to be on a walker. So all of these things, affect balance. So how do you address that with that population?
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, it's going back to the person and their goals. But I would say, for instance, if someone is coming in with, let's say, some back pain, and also the hump or the slouching you were talking about, I would want to bring my hands on their sternum and their back. I would want to bring some space in that area to see if they can find a little bit of support there, or even awareness. Over time, you might not have any awareness in those areas. So in regards to the hands-on touch, I would want to do that. I'd also probably work the front of their neck, not necessarily work the back. Again, it depends on what I see when someone comes in. In regards to balance, going back to Rolf movement, well, first, the hands-on work can get support because a lot of the feet and leg work that we do. And in regards to the Rolf movement aspect, we want to change the coordinated aspect of it. So we might want to do standing on one foot a little bit, working the intrinsic muscles in the bottom of our foot that we don't necessarily utilize. We all walk a certain way, and we have these little receptors on the bottoms of our feet. And if you don't activate them, well, over time they become atrophied, just like any place. And so working with balance would be guiding a person with standing on one foot at a time, holding, letting the wall be a sense of support. Imagining the ground coming up to meet you to be a sense of support, allowing the sounds that you hear. It's the balance is about the inner ear. And so it's really about, okay, so what am I hearing? What am I taking in? Can that be a sense of support? The sky can be a sense of support. So it's basically changing someone's, and again, it goes back to slowing down and bringing that awareness of like, oh, where am I in this room right now? Right. And how can that be a sense of support? And so that's bringing more of a sense of slowing down. And again, that can help that balance aspect.
That's really important, I think, for an older population, because balance starts to deteriorate as you get older. And if you do fall, then you're at risk for, breaking your pelvis, and, that has a whole other set of complications.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And so, a session could be if someone's concerned about falling, or if they have fallen, well, then we would do groundwork. We would talk about how do we get up from a lying down position, how, like we did in your session. Mm-hmm. How would someone fall safely? We can go over that sort of exploration too in movement. The movement aspect is something that, what are the goals for the client? What are they wanting from a session? And then allowing that support to be given to them so they can take that to their daily life.
Right. And maybe some of your clients may not even know what they need. So one of the other things that I think a lot of older people have an issue with, and I know I've had before, is sciatic pain. Mm-hmm. And as you get older, you could have degeneration of your vertebral column. You can have all kinds of things going wrong with you that could, out of alignment, right, that could cause sciatic pain. How do you deal with that with those patients or those customers?
Yeah. I might inquire about what do they do in their daily life. So if they're doing a lot of sitting, I might recommend them to, find times in the day to come to standing and just kind of notice how they feel in their body, or take a walk, just to allow, that compression that's either coming from the low back or the sciatica, or it might even be the way they're making contact with their feet. So I might recommend them, lifting their hips a little higher in their chair, allowing there to be a slight incline so the hips are higher than your knees. That sometimes takes away a little bit of the discomfort that someone's feeling from sciatica. I also might have someone focus on their breath. And so, I might have them lying down on the table, taking them out of gravity, out of that need of effort, and just having them notice the table underneath them, having them notice their breath. So I might bring my hands on the front and back of their body just to feel and have a tactile feedback. There might be some direct work that needs to be done around the sacrum or the low back or even the hips. So it kind of depends, again, going back to just that relationship aspect of it. Sometimes it's not really where you're feeling it, but somewhere surrounding that area.
Right.
So again, it's about slowing down, bringing awareness, and finding out what that person does on a daily basis, or what their regular lifestyle is, to sort of bring another way of being or utilizing their body.
I think that's one of the reasons that I thought it was so important to have you on this channel, because I think the body work, it certainly has helped me in my life. And I was, it's something that maybe initially I wasn't as open to, but once you have it affect you in a way where it really improves the way that you feel and the way that you move. And I'm not maybe conscious all the time of all the things I do in movement, but there are times that it comes into my head, and changing a behavior, the first thing you have to do is recognize that you have that behavior.
Exactly.
Right.
And we all have our habits.
Right.
And so it's a nice reminder of going and seeing a practitioner to sort of say, bringing awareness. Mm-hmm. I have my habits. That's why I get worked on regularly, to bring awareness to those places that I might not be so conscious of on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I so appreciate you taking time out to share your expertise with us today.
Of course. Thank you for asking.
And I know you're going to give me a couple of websites for people across the country, if they're interested in doing some body work, that they can go to try to find someone that's an authority like you are.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'll give you the links to those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, hopefully we can do this again.
That'd be great.
All right. I appreciate it, Jay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shelley.
Looking for bodywork session or seeking to connect with a practitioner? The links that I've provided you will guide you to the right place.